Hello, this lesson is about equations of a line. We're going to graph them and write them. There are three different forms of equations of a line. Now, generally, you're probably familiar with the first two. The first one is slope-intercept form. This is the most common, y equals mx plus b. Yes, you need to know all three of them. Yes, you need to memorize these equations. We call it slope-intercept form because m is a slope and b is the y-intercept. We use this one the most for graphing because it is easier to find and graph when you have the slope and the y-intercept. It's easy to graph when you have a point and a slope. And here it's just a very particular point. It is the y-intercept. Now we can always write the y-intercept as a point 0, b. So that's the one that we use most for graphing and for Algebra 1 and geometry and sometimes Algebra 2. Standard form is one that we often see as well. Note that A, B, and C are capital. This capital B is different than the lowercase b. They are just random letters. A always needs to be positive, and A, B, and C needs to be natural numbers or integers. They cannot be fractions. Now, we usually see it in standard form when you do systems of equations and when you're comparing it to other different functions, parabolas, conic sections, they all are generally in standard form. But because A, B, and C don't stand for anything in particular, they're just random numbers, it's usually not the one that we use for most things. But it's the one that you see often. Point slope form. This form is generally not used very often in lower math classes. However, once you get to trigonometry, pre-calculus, and calculus, especially calculus, this is the form that is used most. It's called point slope because you have the slope, which is m, and you use a point. So this becomes a very, very important equation. The ones that we're going to be working with today the most will be slope-intercept form. All right, so graph each line. So as I had said, we usually like slope-intercept form. Standard form is also a way you can do it. It can be cumbersome depending on the equation. So we can tell this is slope-intercept because it's y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to determine the m, slope, and the b, which is 5. Again, I can write it as that. And we always graph the b first, alphabetical. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's positive 5 along the y. And our slope, I'm going to go down 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and over 1 to the right. I'm going to do it one more time because I don't have a ruler. I can't use it on this. So I'm going to just try to draw a straight line. More points is easier to draw when it's straight. So let's double check. So we know it's negative slope, and we talked about in an earlier lesson. From left to right, it's going down. All right, so here we can see that it's in standard form. And you can graph it from here using intercepts, x and y, but I'm going to change it to slope-intercept form. Now, if you choose to do it a different method, that's fine, as long as I can figure out how you graphed it. All right, so I can see my slope is 3/4, and my y-intercept is -3. So it's 3. So slope is a ratio, so it's 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Our slope is positive, and you can see that it is going up. My graph matches that. All right. So graphing lines is something that you've probably done before. But what you also need to do is be able to, if you're given a line, can you write the equation? Can you go backwards? So for this, I'm going to, again, it says to do it, write it in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to write that. So since it's called slope-intercept form, you can see that I'm going to need those two things. So I'm going to figure out the slope. From the slope, you need to find 2 points on the line. My eyes aren't very good. So I'm going to use those 2 points, I think. And this is 0, 3. And this is -6, 0. And I'm just going to count. You can actually use the slope equation if you want to. But I'm going to count. So change from here to here is 3. So my rise is 3. My run is 6. Right? So it's rise over run. So it's 3 over 6 or a half. 1 over 2. The y-intercept, we can see here, is 3. So using substitution, here's your equation. All right. Use this one. Okay, that looks like a -1, and this looks like a -3. You can use other points, but for me, this is the easiest. So along here, it's 3, and this is 1. So my rise is actually dropping. So it's a -3 over 1. So that's my slope. It's the -3. And you can tell that the slope is negative, right? From left to right, it's going down. The y-intercept is also -3. So my, okay, just double checking. -3x minus 3. Sorry for the pause. There. Now, what if you're not given a graph? What if you're just given some points? And you could say, hey, Miss Mendoza, why don't we just graph it and then count it? Well, it could be tedious trying to get to 1, -13, and 6, -3. And what if the numbers were really big, like 20, -100, and the other one was 2,000, -5? Do you want to graph that? So we know the formula for slope. So, sorry. Using the equation, we know it's slope-intercept form. So we're going to need to find 2 things, the slope and then the y-intercept. Now, because I don't want to graph it to find the slope, I'm going to use the equation, which we should know, right, from a previous lesson. If you don't remember it, you should look up at your notes. But this is why I guess math teachers were so used to telling students to memorize it, because it's just quicker, right? Not having to look up at notes. So that is our slope. So now we have to find the b. Now, for this, it's easiest to, well, what does x and y stand for? It stands for a point. And do we have points? Yes, I'm given 2. So I'm going to use this to put it in x and y to find our b. Now, could I have used this point? Sure. It really doesn't matter because they're both on the line. So you can use any point that lies on this line to find the b if you have the slope. So this is x plus b. Right, I have -15. So now that I have the y-intercept and the slope, I'm going to just substitute. And there you are. All right. If you want to try this one on your own, go ahead and pause. All right, so I need the slope. Okay. Good. It gave me a fraction, which is fine, but I just want to double check my work. Looks good. So then I'm going to use this point. I like that it has a 0. So y, and I'm looking over here at this equation to help me. 0 equals 3/4 5 plus b. And say, Miss Mendoza, that's a fraction. Yep, sure does. All right, we can deal with fractions. We can do this. Everything isn't always going to be nice, pretty integers. And there you are. So y equals, we have our slope, 3/4. Now, if you change it to a mixed number, that's fine. There you are. So from our last lesson, we had talked about slopes of parallel lines and perpendicular lines. So just review, parallel lines have slopes that are the same. And if lines are perpendicular, then their slopes are opposite reciprocals, or their product is -1. So here you're asked to write an equation of a line given a point and some information about a line. So we're reading the directions, write an equation of a line in slope-intercept form again. I love to write the equation just so I have reference to it, so I know that's what I'm going to use for this one, this form and not a different form. So it says the line passes through this point, but is parallel to this line. All right. So from the information that we had, the earlier problems, 5 and 6, we had to find the slope, right? And then the y-intercept, given 2 points. So here I now have a point and a line, but I know it's parallel to this line. So what do I know about parallel lines? Their slopes are equal. So if I can find the slope of this, then I can find the slope of this new line that passes through this point. So I'm going to put it in slope-intercept form to be able to find our slope. So I'm subtracting 7x to both sides. Now I'm going to divide by 2. A negative is positive, and then this. So my slope here is 7/2, and parallel has equal slopes, equal m's. So it's going to be the same. So this is a slope, and I'm going to use this point, just like the previous 2 problems, to find b. So using this equation, that's my y equals m 7/2, 6 plus b. Simplifies. So b equals -29. Right, so my equation, substituting now those 2 things, y equals 7/2x minus 29. Oops. Next problem. What are we given? Okay, so I'm given a point and it's perpendicular. Okay, perpendicular. What do we know about perpendicular lines? Their slopes are opposite reciprocals. Okay, opposite reciprocals. So this is my equation and this is my slope for the given line. The opposite reciprocal would be -1/3. So this is the one I'm going to use, not 3, because I want perpendicular, -1/3. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to substitute it in, so to the slope-intercept form of the line. Okay, so -3 goes into -12 4 times, plus b, subtract 4. There we are. So y equals -1/3 x plus 1. There you are. So really be careful with these two problems. Read every question. They may be very different. Don't assume things. So perpendicular, opposite reciprocals, and parallel equal slopes. All right. Thanks for watching. Bye.